Hello, I'm Soroj and I'm here with Sewing Quarter, and we are joined by the lovely Juliet from this year's Great British Sewing Bee, or should I say the winner of this year's Great British Sewing Bee. And we're just here today to have a nice little chat just before she joins us on the show in the Sewing Quarter studios. So Juliet, would you like to start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I am a mum, a teacher, primary school teacher, and I just love to sew. I enjoy sewing, it's my passion, and I love to share it with everybody else. So, best place to do that on the Sewing Quarter. So, yeah.
So Juliet, how long have you been sewing for?
I have been sewing since 2013, so that makes it 6 years. I've been sewing for 6 years now.
Wow.
6 years and a few months. So yeah, it's been interesting, and well, it's been really good because I won the Great British Sewing Bee. So I mean, it's been a great journey, and I'm glad where it's taken me.
Juliet, you mentioned before that you're a teacher, primary school teacher. So is that what you were doing before you started really getting into sewing, and in particular going on to the Great British Sewing Bee?
Yes, I've been sewing. Oh well, I've been teaching since 2010. So I've been a primary school teacher ever since. Even though, well, I'm out of school at the moment, but I am a teacher who went ahead to learn how to sew and has taken it from there. Basically,
Okay.
yeah.
Fab. So do you think you're going to continue teaching as well as sewing, or is sewing really what it is now that you want to do?
For now, it's going to be sewing, but I am teaching sewing as well. So I'm not teaching in a classroom with children, but I'm going to be teaching maybe children, maybe adults, how to learn to sew.
So mixing the two together.
Exactly.
I'm really excited to ask this next question. So what is the actual process and behind the scenes of being a part of the Great British Sewing Bee?
It's a very, very organised, rigorous process. It was very, very, very intense. Lots of stages to go through. Had auditions, telephone interviews, face-to-face interviews on camera. All sorts. But I mean, I got through each stage and I got here. So it's the application process. I mean, the hardest part of it was actually having to sew on camera, which was the very first thing where we had to, one of the auditions where we had to, sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but anyway, yeah. I think the hardest part of the process was actually having that little session where we had to sew on camera, trying to simulate the actual process of what it would be like on TV. I think that was the hardest because that's not what I do. That's not my thing. So,
what would your top tips be for any of our viewers or watchers who want to get involved and might want to apply for the Great British Sewing Bee?
Anyone who wants to go for the Great British Sewing Bee, as long as you can sew and you feel confident in what you make, go for it and just be yourself. Be yourself, practice, and just know your craft, really. That's what I would say to anyone. So yeah, go for it.
So Juliet, what have you been up to since you'd finished the Great British Sewing Bee?
Well, since I finished Great British Sewing Bee, I have, taken on a couple of commissions, for brides. I've made 2 wedding dresses.
Oh wow! Okay.
I've made 2 wedding dresses. I've made a couple of special occasion garments for people. Commissions from people really.
Yeah.
I am currently working with Singer sewing machines to create lots of projects, exciting projects. Yeah, it's just a little thing here, a little thing there. Try to reach a bit more people by taking my blogging a bit more seriously. So I've been blogging a bit more about sewing and doing fun tutorials on my website. So yeah.
Fab. So would you say that it's changed your life in a way?
It's changed my life a lot because I learned a lot of skills. I pushed myself a bit further. I actually made an evening gown on the show, which actually made me think I can actually make something that a bride can wear on her special day. And so far, so good.
Speaking of dressmaking, and obviously you've just told us about all the gowns that you've made for brides, what would your top tips be for any of our dressmakers out there?
Anyone who's learning to sew or anyone who actually does sew, my top tip would be just don't don't chuck anything out and decide that you can't do it. Keep practicing, keep going, because mistakes are bound to happen. Yeah. All you need to do is learn from those mistakes. Take a break, first of all. Just put it to the side. Go and have a little bit of a nap or whatever it is you do to chill, and come back to it later with fresh eyes, because that's what sewing is about. You know, you make a mistake all the time, but just learn from it and keep going. Keep going.
So you mentioned then about mistakes happening all the time. And I think you know what's coming, don't you?
I know.
What would you say the biggest mistake is? Or not mistake, maybe mishap or little issue that you've come across along your sewing journey?
I've made loads of mistakes. I mean, there's been a lot of them. I can't even count, loads. But the biggest one was, okay, I've got this habit of leaving things for myself till last minute. I had an event coming on. I went ahead to make myself a dress, forgot, because I put a few inches on my waist. So I forgot. I used an old pattern, made it all up. It looked beautiful. It was time to put it on, and it didn't fit.
Oh no.
And it was a button-down dress, and I just couldn't wear it because it was just too small. It was a good 1 inch more. No, 1 inch less than my waist at the time. So yeah, I think that was a big boo-boo, because you should always check as you go. That's a big thing. You should always check, otherwise it won't fit. So I'd completed the entire garment and it didn't fit.
Oh no, that's such a shame. So then, what did you do? Did you?
I had to wear something else.
Oh no! So there was no fixing it last minute.
Well, you can't. If it's too big, you can make it small. But if it's too small, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah,
so I had
true.
To, yeah. But it fits now.
Oh, nice.
It fits now.
So we're so excited to have you in the Sewing Quarter Studios, but we just wanted to get a feel for what exciting projects have you got coming up in the future, maybe even a little sneak peek of what's coming on the show?
Well, there's lots of exciting projects. I mean, it's coming up to a new season. We're going to be wearing a bit more layers and things, so I am working on a lot of outerwear at the moment. However, on the show there's going to be lots and lots of exciting dressmaking projects coming up, and I can't wait to do them, and I can't wait to share with everyone. So
you're just going to have to tune in to find out what they'll be.
I guess so.
What would you say your favourite kind of season of dressmaking would be? Are you a summer kind of person? Do you like your autumn clothes?
Do you know, to be honest, I really like summer because I like bold prints, I like colour. However, I really like making outerwear. I love like jackets, blazers, coats and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to choose, but I think I would lean towards summer more than autumn.
For the prints and the colours?
Yes.
But you like making
outerwear. Yeah. I like the challenge. I like the challenge of making outerwear. I like the lots and lots of steps. It's really satisfying creating, because it takes a lot of time to create any sort of jacket or coat, or to properly make them. It takes a lot of time.
I guess there's so much to think about, isn't there? The lining, your fastenings. Yeah. You don't necessarily have to think about all of that stuff when you're making.
No. And tailoring takes a lot of a lot of couture skills, and it is really time consuming, but the end product is so rewarding and satisfying to look at. So I can't choose, but if you asked me to choose and said, yeah, you've got 30 seconds, I would go with summer.
I feel like we've got to know you throughout this interview. We've got a feel for the kind of things that you like to make. You love your prints, your summer wear, but the challenge of outerwear. But what is your ultimate favourite item that you have ever made?
I've got too many. I've got lots of favourites that I've made. I mean, yeah, lots and lots of things I've made in the past I really like. However, my favourite thing that I've ever made is a Tilly and the Button cocoa dress. I'll tell you the reason. It's a very, very easy dress, but it was my first attempt at sewing stretch fabric, and I challenged myself by changing up the sleeves, and I made a big bell sleeves that I made, and I had a wax print lining on the bell sleeves, so it looked so funky, and so it was lovely. and I think that was my favourite because that was my first attempt at working with stretch fabric and hacking sleeves, because sleeves are my big thing. I really love sleeves, so I think that's my favourite. It's so easy and simple, but I think that's my favourite.
Yeah, that sounds like an amazing dress.
Yeah. It's simple, so easy, and but it was special to me, so I think that's my favourite.
I guess because it's your first,
yeah,
it's got a special place in your heart.
Exactly.
Thank you for joining me today, and we really hope that you enjoyed the interview with the lovely Juliet.